Hi, everybody. Um, Thank you for being patient with me. I'm sending this a little bit later than I typically do. This is the recap of the January 28th board meeting. So at the January meeting, the board has the first part of it, their meeting is their organizational meeting, and then they exit out of that, and then the regular meeting starts. So the organizational meeting started at 5 o'clock, and Christy and Elaine were appointed and sworn in annually, which this is something that happens every year for the chief fiscal officer and the assistant fiscal officer. Um, Shannon was doing the swearing in this year, so thank you very much to Shannon. She's a notary, so she's able to do that for us. Shannon also swore in a new board member named Rob Gieske, who's going to be taking over treasurer duties on the board. Um, the board held their election of officers. So the president is going to be Dennis Sabecki. A vice president is Beth. Treasurer is Rob Gieske, and the secretary is Chris Korn. As far as committees go, for 2026, branches and outreach, Chris Korn is chair and Beth Michelle is a member. Buildings and land, Chris Korn is the chair, and Jenny and Tammy Bowers are going to be on that committee with her. Finance is Rob with Beth Michelle. Library policy is Dennis Sabecki as chair with Beth. And then personnel is Beth is chair and Chris Korn is on that committee. So the final thing that they voted on during their organizational meeting were the dates of the board meetings. So all the board meetings are going to be the last Wednesday of the month, with the exception of November and December, which have the holidays. So the board meeting is going to be the week before the holidays. So in November, that would be November 18th, and in December, that would be December 16th. So I know that Christy and Shannon have been working on making all this information available to you and updating everything. So if you want to refer to the updated documents, they should be on the staff page. They closed out of the organizational meeting and then opened up the regular board meeting. So Rob Gieske had to leave at 5:45 for another commitment. So the first thing that we did in the organizational, or the board did in the organization or in the regular meeting, is that they voted on the resolution to appoint evaluation committee for the construction manager at risk. So the individuals they approved for to be on the evaluation committee for the construction manager at risk were myself, Christy, Gary Ford, Chris Korn, and there's one more, and I can't remember it, and Rob Gieske. So Rob's going to be on that one too. So we'll be moving forward at a swift clip with selecting the CMR, and I plan on having a CMR recommendation from the evaluation committee for the March board meeting. So we should get that done in 8 weeks. So they approved that resolution because Rob had to leave, so he exited fairly soon after that, and then they went back to the regular order of the meeting. So I'm just going to go to items for discussion. Facilities manager job description. So I had drafted Gary was promoted to facilities manager at the December 2025 board meeting. So I drafted a facilities manager job description. Gary reviewed it. It went to the personnel committee, and the board approved it at their board meeting. So that's in place. The second thing on the items for discussion was a certificate of deposit. So library had a 12-month CD at West Banco for $200,000. So Christy, with board approval, Christy is going to roll that over for another 12 months with West Banco. I then gave the library annex update. So I had a slideshow with this. So there were a number of things that I went over during this slideshow. So I was primarily talking about the cost of the annex, the estimated cost, and funding. So we got the opinion of probable cause from the design firm SHP, and it was almost double what the library budgeted for us to do everything. So consequently, I met with Gary Cates, the fundraiser, Christy and Taryn were in the meeting with me, and we talked about ways to address this. So one of the things that we're going to be doing is we're going to be upgrading the amount that we're going to be fundraising for. So instead of 2.5 million, it's going to be 3 million. We'll be looking for government grants, other governmental money, which would be money from the county, or possibly getting some earmarked money from our U.S. Senator Marcy Kaptur. And then there was also, the library had $750,000 saved for this. And then the library will be borrowing against the public library fund. So because we're a public library, we can't borrow against the building like you would with a house mortgage. But Ohio Revised Code allows us to borrow against our income through the public library fund. So the next steps are starting to work more on the fundraising. Christy's going to be contacting Bricker Graydon to determine how much we can actually borrow. And the other big step that's going to be happening next is that we are going to have to put a levy on the ballot. So I had originally thought that we weren't allowed to put a levy on the ballot until 5 years from when we last did that. So 5 years would have been November of 27. But the Bricker Graydon lawyers told us that we actually have more flexibility than that, and we can put a levy on the ballot in November of 26. So that's this November. So I'm recommending that we move forward and do that. The reason being that, number one, if it doesn't pass, that gives us more time to have a second or third run at it. And number two, we can't borrow the money that we need against the PLF until we have the income from the levy to plug the hole in our operating budget that the debt payments would make. So we need to have the levy passed before we can borrow the money. So that's why the levy is very important to us. So as you all know, those of you who've been here for a while, you know the whole levy process is quite extensive. So we're going to actually have to start working on this in March. And we'll be forming a levy committee. I need to find a new levy treasurer because the gentleman who's been doing it doesn't want to do it any longer. It's Terry Melton. He's done a wonderful job for us, but he's letting go of a lot of his commitments. He's retired now. So I will be working on all of that. And the other updates that I had about the annex were that I met with the Assistant County Prosecuting Attorney, Russ Herman, to talk to him about selling the houses that are on the property that the library owns. So there's the two houses there. And this was my idea. I thought it was a great idea at the time. Now I think I had a really bad idea, but Russ talked me out of this, and I'm recommending to the board that we don't sell the houses, that we instead demo them. And the reason for that is that there are a lot of legal questions around it because there's no specific step-by-step process for public libraries to sell real property. And then Russ was questioning whether the houses would actually be considered real property if they're separated from the land. There's also a lot of liability issues involved with this. So we are in the queue for a demolition grant from Maumee Valley Planning. So I spoke with them a couple days ago, and we should be hearing in February or March whether we would get a grant to cover all or some of the demo costs for those two buildings. If we do get the funding, then that would mean that we could demo the buildings in sometime this spring or summer. So that's just, we're kind of in a holding plan with that right now too. And then the other piece, I don't have my slides with me right now. I believe there was one other piece. If I can, I have something else to talk about. If I think of the third piece, I will share it with you. And then the last thing that we talked about after the annex update was that the federal mileage reimbursement rate. So we get to talk about this at every January meeting. So according to the library policy, staff get reimbursed at the federal level at the federal rate for mileage. So in 2025, it was 70 cents a mile. The IRS has increased that to 72.5 cents a mile. So this gets brought forward to the board each year so they can approve, they don't have to vote on it, but if they want to change the policy, this is sort of a reminder for them that they have the capability to change this policy if they want to. And then that's the and then the board adjourned. The meeting ended at about 6:20. And I will be if I have further information about the annex update, I will send it out via email, or you're welcome to come in and chat with me if you want to. Taryn also has all the same information I have. And thank you very much. And I hope you guys have a great weekend.